Good evening and welcome to our show, Going Public. I'm Renee Bosaka, and joining us tonight are Sangela Rose, the Chief Academic Officer for the Terrebonne Parish School District, and Angèle Bajeron and Darlene Baudouin, two curriculum specialists for the Terrebonne Parish School District. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure having you on the show. Miss LaRose, the last time we met, we talked about the start of school and the upcoming 2022-23 school year. Now that we are approximately 5 weeks into school, do you have any new updates for us?
Of course, the big question with everybody is hurricane recovery. We are very proud to say that all of our schools are in individual classes this year. We're all in our own buildings. Our temporary campuses for our two high schools were finished prior to the start of school. And we had two school buildings that we were able to move our elementary schools into temporarily. So nobody had to share schools this year. We spoke about trainings, upcoming trainings for our teachers, and we have been diligently preparing teachers and following up with teachers on new curriculum and meeting with our new teachers to make sure that they're comfortable and prepared to teach their students this year. And one of the things that we do in education is we have weekly PLCs, which are professional learning communities. And during this time, our teachers meet as a group and they look at student data and they discuss where they've been in the previous weeks and where they need to go in the upcoming weeks and try to individualize that education for each of the students. And so we look at the results from our beginning of the year benchmark assessments and determine what we need to do, and intervene is a word that we use. We give the kids interventions so that we can meet each child where he or she is. So of course, the main thing is focusing on the curriculum and using that data to continue to build on each child's strengths and to determine where their weaknesses are and what we can do to hit that head on. And so that's some of the stuff that we're going to discuss with you guys today.
And joining us tonight, we have Angèle Bajeron, the K through 2nd grade curriculum specialist, and Darlene Baudouin, the ELA 3rd through 12th grade curriculum specialist with us. Tonight, they're going to share some information about the English Language Arts curriculum, also known as ELA. Thank you guys for joining us also. We know there are some new initiatives being implemented in our schools this year. Can you share some of the details on these new initiatives this year?
Well, one of the new initiatives is the science of reading. Now, the science of reading is not a curriculum or an educational philosophy. It's actually research on how people learn to read. It's based on decades of studies by not only literacy specialists, but by psychologists and neurologists. They're actually looking at MRI images of the brain, and they're able to see how different parts of the brain are activated during different parts of the reading process. It's really fascinating. The research explains, for example, how a dyslexic student's brain works versus a non-dyslexic reader. And having this knowledge and using this knowledge effectively to drive our instruction should have children reading on grade level by the time they leave 3rd grade. So there's some children who are going to learn to read no matter how we teach them. But for the majority, implementing the science of reading is our key to success for all students. And we are currently training all of our K2 teachers in our district on the science of reading. And this is not just an hour-long PD or a day-long PD. It's actually over 50 hours of training that they are having to go through. And the state is giving us a due date of April. But we actually have 70% of our teachers that have completed the training. So we are ahead of the game. So that's good news. We also have consultants that come into our district from our curriculum, and they meet with the teachers at PLCs, and they help them ensure that the curriculum is aligned to the science of reading and that our intervention that we are implementing is also aligned with the science of reading. And through this knowledge that we have learned, we're able to better structure our intervention to meet the needs of all of our students at all academic levels. So we're able to identify the child's earliest deficit skill that needs remediation. So for example, if we have a second grader, say, and they're not a fluent reader, but we can actually pinpoint how far back we have to go with that child, whether it be phonics, and we can even go a step further and say, is it long vowel sounds or short vowel sounds, and provide intervention at that point. Or if they're a fluent reader, we can provide more enrichment. So this is really exciting because we're able to meet the students where they are and take them to where they need to be, and beyond. So we're excited about the science of reading.
And Starling, do you have something to add to that as well?
Yes. So in K2, the new initiative, as you just heard, has to deal a lot with reading. In grades 3 to 5, our new program is focused on writing. So this year, the state curriculum that we use, Louisiana Guidebooks, put out an updated version for grades 3 to 5. And in this updated version, they have added in the writing revolution. So the writing revolution is based on the Hockman method, which is a method of writing instruction that spans grades K through 12 and can cross curriculums. However, at this time, we are only implementing it in ELA for now. We may bring it to other curriculums as we move forward. But as you can see in the image here, the Hockman method is represented by a light bulb. And at the base of this light bulb is this sentence. The method believes that teaching basic sentence construction is the foundation of all effective good writing. So that, when you think of a light bulb and how when you screw the base into the electric source, then that's what makes the light bulb light up. So when it comes to learning the sentence, once they learn that, then the rest of the writing process, in a sense, lights up. Once students have learned basic sentence construction, then it progresses and starts introducing increasingly complex writing skills that are like puzzle pieces that fit together to build toward effective writing. So in 3rd grade and 4th grade, a lot of focus is placed on what's called a single paragraph outline and writing just paragraphs, whereas when you move into 5th grade, you start getting into multi-paragraph outlines, multi-paragraph essays, and then it just gets more and more complex as you move along in the grade levels. This writing instruction is integrated into the content lessons, and it's embedded almost daily in these lessons. It's first taught out of content, which means that the writing skill is taught to students with a topic that they are very familiar with, such as general knowledge of Louisiana, Mardi Gras, festivals, pets, things that they would be very familiar and know a lot of things about. And so the skill is taught that way first. And then it is taken into the content so that, let's say, for instance, in 4th grade, they're reading The Whipping Boy and they're learning unscrambling sentences. First, they'd learn to unscramble them with a topic like Louisiana. And then the next activity would actually have them unscrambling sentences that deal with the content of The Whipping Boy, so that not only are they reinforcing the writing skills that they're learning, they're also reinforcing the reading comprehension that is obviously very important in the curriculum. So in this manner, we end up having writing instruction supporting the reading instruction, and we are definitely very excited about that. Of course, since this is a new method of writing, we are training our teachers in this method. So far, we have had part 1 of that training in August, and they had 6 hours of practice with these skills and looking at how it's actually implemented in the guidebook. And we are going to have part 2 of that training at the end of September. So by the end of September, the teachers will be completely trained in what they need to know to teach the writing revolution. I just have to say I'm really excited about this writing program. It teaches writing in a way that's quite different from the way we were doing it before, with placing that emphasis on that very basic sentence construction. And I really do think that's going to have some really positive impacts on our students' writing achievement.
And do we have any other changes for our older grades besides, I know you mentioned the 3rd through 5th grade?
In our upper grade levels, there aren't any real new initiatives, last year we started implementing an updated version of high school guidebooks, just one unit to try it out. And we're going to continue implementing that this year, hopefully without any interruption from any hurricanes.
And since school has started, have you received any feedback on these new processes?
Teachers have shown a lot of positive reaction to the writing revolution. Just excited to have that daily embedded writing instruction.
We discussed some of the new initiatives being implemented in our schools. You commented that these initiatives are not the actual curriculum taught to students. Can you elaborate on how they are impacting the core curriculum being taught in our curriculum?
Yes, I'll take this one from the start. Core curriculum is a set of educational goals. They are explicitly taught to students, and we focus on making sure that all students are involved in learning curriculum that is grade and age appropriate for each of those students. It ensures continuity between grade levels and across all grade levels by making sure that students are prepared one year for their learning in the subsequent years, and that we base that learning on the data that we see as students move from grade to grade. And our curriculum is chosen from a list of Tier 1 curricula that is provided for us by the State Department. And we get teams of teachers together, we sit together, and we determine which curriculum is best for each subject and each grade level.
All right. Ms. Angel, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, as we said in the previous segment, the science of reading is not a curriculum, but our curriculum in kindergarten through second grade is called Ckla. And it's completely aligned, though, with the science of reading, which is very beneficial because our teachers do not have to supplement and use outside resources. There's a natural progression of how a person learns to read. When there's a gap, even though they may appear to be successful at the moment, it could possibly catch up with them later. So our goal is to fill any and all gaps in the reading continuum to ensure that our students are successful lifelong readers. For example, if a child entering school needs to have something we call phonological awareness. This is basically the ability to manipulate and distinguish sounds. I always like to say teaching this skill can be done in the dark. The students are not actually seeing print at this point. As you can see in the visual that we're going to put up, this is the progression of phonological awareness, and it starts with rhyme. So mastering rhyme is a key component in a child's progression in learning to read. Once children master phonological awareness, then they would move to phonics, which is where they actually see print. And if you have older children, or if you're comparing it to how you learn to read, you may notice a shift in reading instruction, because there's a heavy emphasis on phonics now. We've moved away from leveled readers to something called decodable readers. The difference is that leveled readers were not all decodable, and children were relying on pictures and context clues to figure out some unknown words. With decodable readers, on the other hand, the children are reading books that only contain sounds that they have been explicitly taught. The repeated practice of those decodable texts increases automaticity, which leads to fluency. So, and we, I always tell teachers and parents that we have to be careful with the decodable readers because they're not all appropriate for that level of instruction. Decodable readers means that they can be sounded out and they can decode those words, but it may not match the progression of the curriculum. So we want to make sure we're just exposing them to decodable readers that have the sounds that we have taught. The Ckla curriculum is made up of two strands, the skills strand and the knowledge strand. The skills strand provides instruction in things like grammar and decoding, so we can create fluent readers. And then the knowledge strand is centered on complex narrative and informational read aloud text. And this provides instruction and comprehension. So the student is immersed in a topic for about 2 to 3 weeks, so they can build background knowledge and vocabulary and comprehension skills. If parents have any questions on the science of reading or see Ckla, the curriculum, they can reach out to their child's teacher, their administration, or myself. I love discussing the topic because I've seen firsthand how it's impacted so many students and has improved readers who struggle. So,
And then moving on to the upper grades, how is it affecting the upper grades, Miss Darlene?
Well, you heard Angel talk a lot about how CKLA and the science of reading is teaching students how to read. Once you move past second grade and you get into third grade, now we're starting to teach students how not only to read, but to read, to understand what they're reading, and to express that understanding in writing. The curriculum that we use for grades 3 to 8 and English 1 and 2 is the Louisiana Guidebooks, which is the state's curriculum. This curriculum was written by and reviewed by educators, and it aligns directly to standards and to the state testing. And that's one of the major reasons that we chose this curriculum to use. Grades 3 to 5 this year have that updated version of guidebooks for 2022. And that's the update that includes the writing revolution. So that's how those initiatives are impacting our core curriculum. So the writing revolution lessons are embedded in their daily lessons using that out of content then in content approach that I had mentioned before. The units are also leveled so that as the year progresses, the writing instruction gets increasingly complex as we go along until they get to an application unit at the end. The updates are, like I said, just for now in grades 3 to 5, but this writing instruction is going to be embedded in the further grades as time goes on. Supposedly grades 6 through 8 should be updated in the next 1 to 2 years, and then high school would be beyond that. Now, speaking of high school, they use a different curriculum in English 3, 4, technical writing, business English, those curriculums that don't use guidebook. They use textbook resources that were chosen by teams of teachers in the past, and those teachers receive guidance from the district on what texts to teach, what units to teach. If all of our curriculums are analyzed, they're reviewed, they're vetted to make sure that they are not only teaching the necessary skills that our students need, but that they are also appropriate for each grade level for those students. So this means that some units will be taught and some units won't.
Now, as a parent or community member, how would I acquire more information about these ELA curriculums?
in K2, students are given a login for something called the Ckla Hub. And the hub contains digital decodable readers, a sound library, which will help them with the phonics skills that they're working on. And there's some intro videos for their knowledge domain, which is the comprehension topic that I mentioned earlier that they study for a couple weeks. And so that will give the parents some knowledge of what the topic is. Because of copyright issues, we are not able to post our actual curriculum material on our website. But at any time, if parents want to see our curriculum or our teacher guides, they just have to call administration or teachers or myself, and we can give them access to it.
And does it work the same way for the older grades?
Similarly, for guidebook, it's actually published online. So anyone can actually access Louisiana Guidebooks by going to louisianacurriculumhub.com. So that's just the 3 words, Louisiana Curriculum Hub, all together, lowercase.com. And by accessing that, you can see all of the units that are available for each grade level. Keeping in mind, though, as I mentioned, that we don't teach all of the units. So 6 units are available for each grade level. We only teach 4. So if parents were interested in knowing which of the units we actually teach, they would need to just contact the school or the district level, and we'd be more than happy to share that information. As for high school, for the curriculums that don't use guidebook, those that are using those textbooks that I mentioned, again, those textbooks are copyrighted, so we can't just, put them up on the website. However, if your students actually have a copy of the textbook that they bring home every day, if your child has that, you can review the textbook in that manner. Or if they don't bring it home because it's a class set, you can ask the school to send one home for review. Of course, keeping in mind again that we don't teach every single story and every activity in that textbook. You'd have to speak to someone to know which ones are taught.
Thank you. That's definitely some good information that you guys passed on. Right quick before we leave, I know many parents are concerned about the possible gaps in student learning because of our hurricane that we've had and COVID. Can you address these concerns that parents may have?
Absolutely. Last year in 2021-22, of course, we were faced with Hurricane Ida. And we aren't as concerned about last year because we made up all of those days. We had some days embedded in our calendar. And then, of course, we had to go into June to make sure that we fulfilled the required days through the state. With that being said, we were able to adjust our pacing guides so that the students received all of the material that they were supposed to receive during that school year. But let's jump back another year to 2021, and that was our COVID year that the students had the option of going into the school building or doing the virtual option. And we did have quite a few that did the virtual option, but that's what those interventions that the ladies were talking about, that's what we're covering at that time. And in the previous year before that, we missed those couple of months, but we're making up time and we're covering ground.
Well, thank you. Definitely a good update. Thank you all for joining us once again. I want to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday on Going Public. Good night.